Hi everyone, I'm doing my next section on this book, Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn, by John Maxwell. He's a New York Times best-selling author and I'm a speaker with him. I'm building a business and that's why I'm doing these videos to get people to come to me to help them with training, with workshops, and also spiritual direction. I've been a spiritual director for a long time now. I used to help with retreats and putting together guided prayers when I was a student all the way back in 1994 at Wits University. And I graduated with my master's here in Toronto at Regis College as a spiritual director and also a diploma in spiritual direction for Ignatian spirituality. So I'm combining that and doing the speaking and looking to build a business. So if you do know anybody that would be interested in my skills in helping them, let me know. Today I joined a online training with Roddy Galbraith and he's my mentor in the program that I enrolled in. This was introduced to me by Jo Orak, who is a high school friend who has passed away now, but she felt that it would be good for me to do it and to help me because she knows that I've had nothing here but minimum wage, contract work, and everybody that comes into Canada goes through similar experiences. So I'm using my education and skills to help others and so that others know there's a roadmap to follow, because not everybody has somebody who can open doors for them. Not everybody has somebody who is an executive who can help to give you referrals. I've referred a lot of people to different agencies like Altus HR, Adecco, Kelly Services, Quantum. So through me, they've gotten work. I've also helped to support people when I was in contracts at BMO to vouch for them. And many of them have gone on to be supported in their careers. They've invested in them and they are now at the VP level. Unfortunately, even though these banks have told me they like me, they trust me, they know me, they have not given me that same opportunity. So I've had to overcome a lot of adversity. And this is from childhood, it's not only from now. And I think when we look at adversity, we can't leave out the racial element in that. In this chapter that I looked at, John Maxwell did that as well. He looked at a cycle racer and he talked about this young man who he was with a family that wanted to take him with them when they moved. His name was Marshall. He used to spend time with the Southards and they moved to Chicago, but his family didn't want him to go. The mother didn't want him to go. So he stayed there and overnight they went into poverty. And sometimes that happens with us too. We'll have a family or we'll have somebody who will say, you know what, if you come back, you can help us with this. We want to set up a business and we'll do it together. And they may be established in their country, maybe in America or England or some country that is stable or some city that is stable and has opportunities. And we could say no. Well, I don't want to leave my mother. I don't want to leave my sister. I want to stay here because I want to see them. And overnight, your life can go into poverty. So we have to decide whether we want to take that opportunity and take that risk or not. And John Maxwell talks about how he had to basically do long trips. He was riding his bicycle, he learned tricks, and at that time in the 1890s, bicycles were all the rage. So in the United States, 75 million people had only 5,000 cars, but 20 million bicycles. So he used what was common and what was available to help him. And he started going into bicycle racing and he beat everybody. So when he started doing this. Of course, he got a lot of attention because people started noticing. And he had beat other experienced adult racers by a 6-second margin. He was only 13 years old. So we do see that with popular artists. We see that with Michael Jackson, who was so young when he started singing. We see it with Charlotte Church. We see it with the great composers like Beethoven, Mozart. Some of the strategies that the church has enlisted, like the classical music, was actually done to teach poor children, because those of us who come from poor backgrounds know that sometimes that adversity, that poverty, it can result in behavioral problems. So they used it and the solfeggio frequencies to calm the children down, to get them to concentrate on their work. And you'll find that even for us as adults, when you have that classical music playing in the background, or you listen to classical music, it has a very different effect on you compared to heavy metal or rock music. And that's something that I studied, and it's not part of John Maxwell, but I'm using it as an example of how things that happen in childhood, the adversity we face, influence us as we get older. And Marshall, as he progressed, he got death threats from the white community. They sent him a letter saying, "Dear Mr. Taylor, if you don't leave here in 48 hours, you will be sorry. We mean business. Clear out if you value your life. White races." So that used to happen to me when I used to live at Roosevelt Gardens. And even after that, I used to get all kinds of weird calls. People would just call and leave messages saying, "Get out," or "We know who you are, we're coming to get you," or these scam callers, like with the people dressing up like police. Those things happen to a lot of us. We get targeted because people know, oh, they're elderly, or they're visible minorities, or they're on their own. But it happens more when you are in a position where you're doing better than everybody, and you're excelling, you're owning your own property, you're coming up. You'll find that people will come against you because they don't have it. So, and if they're white, it makes it worse because they are the dominant culture. And who are you coming in as a visible minority and wanting to do better than them? So things like that don't only happen in Africa, they happen right here in Canada. And that was Marshall's story. And he persevered. He went on to win races, to have great accomplishments. But unfortunately, when the stock market crashed in 1932, he died a pauper. And circumstances like that can happen to anyone. It certainly happened to me. No matter how hard I work, no matter what I do, no matter how good I am, the companies let me go and they keep other people on the job. And I tell them, I need this job. I've got an elderly mother. I want to work and I'm delivering the results. Find something else for me. Oh, we can't. We tried. So they have no loyalty to me. So they know I need the job. They know I want to work. They know I'm good. But they'd rather get somebody else in who they can train, who they can develop, who they can invest in, than invest in me. And part of it is racial discrimination. So unfortunately, that is part of life, but we do have to decide that we're not going to give up and that we are going to persevere. And if an opportunity comes to move where somebody tells us, you know what, I know there's a good opportunity here and it's a stable company, it's a good opportunity, we need somebody like you, we have to be prepared to move. Because staying behind because of our sisters or our brothers or our families, it's not going to help us in the long run. We have to be prepared to leave and to go. The same way I went to university in South Africa, the same way I went into university here and I worked and studied overnight. I took on shift work. I did the things I had to do Do I deserve the poverty? No, I don't. But until I can get to that place where I can earn what I want to earn, I have to persevere. And expecting the adversity is one thing, but when it's adversity that goes on and on and on, it does take a toll on you. So I'm not saying that it doesn't. It does take a toll on you. But we can look at it. There's an example that John Maxwell gives of a father teaching his daughter. And she's saying, I'm going through so much adversity and I just cannot deal with this. So what her dad does, he takes 3 pots of water, and in one pot he puts carrots, in the other pot he puts eggs, and in the last pot he puts coffee beans. And he boils all 3 of the pots. And then he tells her to take those items out and to take a look at them. And the carrots obviously become soft, the eggs become hard-boiled eggs, and the coffee, it changes the water. And he tells them to taste, she tells her to taste them. So she does that, and he says, well, what did you notice? So she tells him that she noticed the carrots are soft, the eggs are now hard, and the coffee has changed the water, but the coffee is still, the beans are still the same. And he says to her, that's what life is like. You have to decide whether you are going to change the environment that you're put in and be the same, or whether you're going to let the environment change you, and how you're going to let it change you. So it's a powerful example to look at in our own lives. And also some of us are forced to change because we didn't grow up in a culture where we had to learn about rights and responsibilities in Zimbabwe. We didn't take courses on the history of our land. We didn't have to write an exam for citizenship. We didn't have to do all those things because we were born there. But when we come here, we have to do all those things. And we have to learn about it, and we have to learn about, even when I was working in the call center in America, we had to learn about their culture. We had to learn about all the different states, where they are, how people talk, how to change our tone when speaking to somebody who's in Texas compared to somebody who's in New York. And the cultures are very different across the different states. So it's adversity because it's taking you right out of your comfort zone. You're living in Canada, but you're working for people who are all in America. And even the scripts that they gave us at the beginning, they gave us scripts because if the military call in and you're dealing with the military, this wasn't on my last assignment, but on certain of the assignments, when you're dealing with the military, when you're putting the phone down, you have to say thank you for your service to America. And some of the military will say it back to you. They'll say, oh no, thank you for your service to America. Because in America, it doesn't matter what job you are doing. It's not like Canada, where it's like you're just an executive assistant. You're just the cleaner. You're just doing a job. And the executive are the only one that matter. In America, everybody's job matters. And everybody is faithful to the country. Whereas here, it's like you're just an assistant. So shut up and do your work. I don't want to hear it. So there are big cultural differences between Canada and America. And it's adversity because you have to learn how to adjust to their culture. And you have to learn about how different states are different compared to, you can go from one end of the country to the other end of the country, and it's completely different. So again, that was another barrier. It's more adversity to overcome, but you learn. You learn. And for me, it was very hard working with the military because it brought back a lot of childhood memories of the Civil War. And I grew up in a civil war in Rhodesia, it was called at the time, present-day Zimbabwe. So sometimes I used to weep, and they used to tell me, oh, I'm in Afghanistan, or oh, I'm in this place and I'm in that place and I can't be home for my daughter's birthday. My daughter is turning 5. I used to sit there and weep because I'm not a hard person. So if you see adverts, you'll see adverts for executive assistants. Some of them will say, this is a really nice executive, he's kind-hearted, he's good, he wants somebody as a right-hand partner. Others will say, we want somebody tough-skinned and tough-minded. This is not for the faint-hearted. So I'm obviously not going to work well in that role. But there'll be another role where I can work with somebody who wants somebody who's sensitive, who's caring, who's compassionate, and who will respect the background I've come from. And it's important to remember that when we're job searching. In my case, I didn't have a choice of who I got to work with, who I didn't get to work with. They didn't ask me, do you want to work with the military? Do you want to work with the police? You just take whichever call comes to you, whichever chat, whichever email. You deal with diplomats, you deal with kings, you deal with queens, you deal with actors and actresses, you deal with people who use their stage names, and then when they're on that call, they don't use their stage names. So you know who you're talking to, but you can't say anything. So that's the type of position that I was in. But we have to know ourselves when we're in those situations. Because sometimes I had to take 5 minutes after the call to calm myself down and to say, okay, now I'm ready, now I can take the next call, or the next chat, or the next email. But the people I worked with didn't know that. They didn't take the time to get to know me, to get to know that I grew up in a childhood where I was living in a civil war. They don't know about my fears. They don't know how many people I saw lying dead on the side of the road. They don't know. They just want me to deliver the results. So we have to be prepared to work on our own emotions, our own experiences, and learn how to leverage that when we're dealing with the people. How to be compassionate, how to be kind, how to be empathetic with them. And that's what I had to do, because that's very different from working as a dedicated executive assistant where somebody knows you, you're building relationships, and you're in a company for a long time. It takes a lot of adjusting and a lot of overcoming adversity when you're in that situation. So we learn better from adversity, we learn from the trials, we learn from the experiences we're going through. And that opens new doors for us. In adversity, there's always opportunities. And I'm somebody who looks for those opportunities. If I know that, okay, AI is taking over the jobs, so a lot of jobs are becoming redundant, I look for the jobs where maybe I can write for people. I can be the one that designs the feedback that people are going to get. Or I can design the templates. I look for those types of jobs because I don't want to not change and be out of a job. And of course I do apply for my executive assistant roles because people have told me that's your forte, that's where you're good at. The same way somebody will tell you, this is your forte, this is what I think you're good at. You're good at being a teacher, you're good at being a coach. People have told me you're the best executive assistant we've had, but they don't come back to me and they don't hire me. So I have to keep looking for opportunities. And then we can, from the adversity, we can profit and we can gain, but we also could land up like Marshall. We could land up doing everything right and land up being paupers. That doesn't take away from our accomplishments, from what we've achieved, from what we've done, from the memories we've created along the way, the people that we've helped. It doesn't take away from that. And we all have different experiences of life, but we have to persevere. We don't give up in adversity. And of course, we're all aiming for the gold. Nobody's saying, or I'm aiming just to be average. I'm aiming just to take the paycheck home. When people train for the Olympics, they don't say, I'm aiming to win the bronze medal. We're all aiming for that top prize. And that's why when I was at Teleperformance, within 1 month, on every campaign they put me on, I made Employee of the Month. And every contract I held, I delivered the best and I got the best results. But they didn't keep me. So I have to keep moving on and I have to keep applying for jobs, which is sad. And then the last point he makes is that adversity writes our story, and if our response is right, the story will be good. And he just gives an example of we always have hills to climb. And Mandela said that too. At the end of my journey, I still found that there were more hills to climb. And I liked Mandela because he didn't just focus on the politics. He talked about sports, he talked about poverty, he talked about a lot of the things that Mugabe talked about when he first came into power. And we all liked him. We all liked Robert Mugabe when he first came into power. But afterwards, things got very bad. The same way here in Canada. They used to say about Zimbabwe, oh, Zimbabwe is now like a headless chicken. That's how Canada is now. The headlines are the same. If you read our newspaper headlines, they'll say Canada is now a headless state because we're waiting for the new government to come in and the new leaders to come in for the Liberals as well. So it was the pot calling the kettle black because we left there, we came here, we never went to food banks in Zimbabwe. We had family around us, we had friends around us. We never had to go and get food from the food bank. In Canada, my mother goes and she gets the food from the food bank. And yet she's got an educated daughter like me, sitting at home and not having any work, not having any income coming in. That's the state of the economy today. So we have to write our own stories, we have to persevere, we have to keep the faith, and it's not always easy. It's very, very difficult, especially when you know what you had. You know you had those big houses and sports cars and you could grow your own food and you would never go without, there were families there that could help you. We all went through difficult times there. There were times we went to bed without food. There were times the cupboards were bare, the shelves were bare. Now the same thing is happening in Canada. So who made the policies? Not me. Every time the policies come out, I'm the one that's saying, don't do this. But they do it anyway. Just like now the banks are turning against supporting the initiatives that Joe Biden and others brought in to help with climate change. But they're saying they don't want more migrants, but they're not going to support these initiatives which are going to help and stop more migrants coming in. You can take the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. And I'm not doing it on my own. I'm not the only one saying this is wrong. There are many people, many volunteers in the One campaign, in volunteer organizations that are trying to say, look at what you're doing. The most vulnerable are suffering. Children are suffering. And I'm not just talking, I'm using my words. I'm doing talks like this. I'm taking action. I'm writing to MPs. I'm helping in every way that I can. And so are others. But the people making the decisions in the bank are only interested in making the buck. That's the unfortunate thing. So I'll leave you with this Franciscan blessing. The Franciscans are Catholics, but it is in this book, so I'm going to read it to you. And we're all Christians who are doing this, John Maxwell. Others are welcome to do it as well. May God bless you with discomfort at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that you may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer from pain, rejection, starvation, and war, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and turn their pain to joy. And may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in this world, so that you can do what others claim cannot be done. That is my prayer for myself, and it is also my hope for you. Everybody says it's impossible until it's done, like Mandela said. I haven't made life make me bitter, but it does hurt. I don't know when and if I'm going to get to that place that I want to be in, like my dad, with my own home, my own sports car, traveling, doing all the things I want, because other people are all getting involved, wanting to do what I'm doing and bringing me down, and I'm not getting to where I want to be. Instead of lifting me up and helping me get to that next level, they're bringing me down. So maybe instead of dragging me down, maybe you could try lifting me up and come alongside me, like on the journey to Emmaus, and maybe we can all rise together. Might be a good strategy.